want to move the stool closer? Or?
No, I think that's good. Yeah. We're very informal here. I'm no Barbara Walters, right? All right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Butte, experienced Butte fans. It's Maria today, and we're going to have our special guest here. Some of you may know my guest here from maybe having met him at Staples when he was working there. And most recently, you may have become acquainted with Dennis when he was Chef Dennis at the Leopard Cafe over at the airport. And so I thought I would invite him over and talk about some of the things he's done. He has a very interesting history, and we've had many conversations. I did work for Dennis for a little while there at the Leopard Cafe. Learned a lot of really super cool stuff, but also got to know Dennis a little bit better and learn about his very interesting life. I mean, he had pictures to prove it, and I was just totally wowed by it. So, Dennis, thank you for being with us today, and welcome to our little suite here. You have had a very interesting life, I think, and it still continues to be interesting because you have some projects that are in the works, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But considering, I would like to talk about your culinary career because I like the whole aspect of working in kitchens and things like that, and we've had conversations about that. So tell me about what the earliest influences were in your culinary career. When did it first start for you?
Started at about probably 6 or 7 years old in my mother's kitchen.
Wow.
And she was, I would say, one of the greatest influences as far as me learning about and understanding food. My mother was first generation Italian. She was first out of 8 kids born here in the U.S. And she had one other sister born here, and the rest were born in Italy. And subsequently, her repertoire as far as food was concerned was strictly Italian.
Ooh, but that was good.
And Northern Italian, which a lot of the northern styles of Italian food are influenced a lot by France and also by the Swiss because of the proximity to those two countries. So they use a lot of butter and a lot of olive oil as opposed to just using straight olive oil, which you find as you move more to the south. So that was probably one of the biggest influences. I'd have little tasks like cleaning shrimp and gutting squid and things like that, and preparing just basic things when I was little. And as I got older, I learned more and more as I went along.
So it was hands-on right off the bat then. She had you do your work there
Yep.
and earn your way through the kitchen. What was your first job then after that?
First job was 9 years old at an Italian deli and grocery store, which was about 2 blocks from my house. And I was responsible for, stocking shelves and cutting cheese and helping customers and slicing cold cuts and salamis and different types of meats and things. Of course, today, the owner of the building or the store would be in jail because of child labor and OSHA because the kid's going to cut his hand off on a meat slicer. So that was probably, not probably, that was my first job.
But you probably learned a lot, I mean, despite...
Oh yeah, learned a whole lot in how to deal with customers and how to make simple foods. I'd make different types of salads and things.
Very good. And I bet you also got a taste of all the different things that were available. I mean,
Absolutely.
besides just what you tasted in your mom's kitchen,
Sure.
You had probably, what's the word I'm looking for? You exposed your palate at a very young age to different flavors. Most kids probably today do not have that experience. I mean, it's not till they're much older and maybe they venture out to taste something different, but at a very early age, you were already tasting things that were way different than what a typical kid would have.
Yeah, and with the exception of if you grew up in in an ethnic type of that
Right.
community where, I mean, everybody that lived around us spoke different dialects of Italian, and subsequently different styles of cooking and foods as well. So, yeah, I was exposed to a lot as far as within that venue.
Very cool. So what would you say is because I know you've also done other jobs in your life, in your career. So if you hadn't gone into cooking in the culinary field, what do you think you'd be doing instead? What were other interests that you had when you were growing up?
Well, the first 28 years of my working career out of high school, I was a makeup artist.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, I dealt mostly in the area of fashion and worked with fashion photographers and did a lot of commercial work and a lot of stage production and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And you also said, I remember from one of our conversations, you were in radio and you did some marketing too?
Yeah, I used to do marketing and sales for a radio group in California.
Mm-hmm. Out of all the things that you've done in your career then, and even counting up till now, what would you say was your most favorite role? What was one of the best things that you think you really got the most out of?
I'm going to say, and it's not a cop-out answer, but I'm going to say everything.
Uh-huh.
Because one thing dovetailed into another and into another.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I started out as a makeup artist and started working with fashion photographers, and pretty soon I was starting to shoot and doing fashion layouts. And then from that point, it dovetailed into producing fashion shows and stage shows. A friend of mine was a lighting designer and did a lot of work actually with George Lucas on Star Wars and Poltergeist and some of the other films in the 70s.
In that time, yeah.
And so I got into learning about lighting and lighting design. And so I started doing some lighting design. I did some choreography for a while. And it just kind of all blended and worked together. And did a lot of work as far as production in doing commercials and things of that nature. And later became director of creative development and production for an international ad agency in San Francisco. So that gave me the opportunity to experience a lot of different things, and dealt with, you know, everything from print media to TV to radio and live productions.
So a lot of that visual type work that you're doing, the creative work, the colors and things, that I can see very easily would have influenced also your culinary career, because it is about presentation.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
you put a nice plate out, it has to look a certain way, and I've seen you at work, so I know that a lot of that plays into that. Your plates are a masterpiece, and I know that obviously comes from that creative side. Do you paint or draw or anything like that?
I used to, yeah. I used to paint mostly oil, some sketching, but mostly oil.
Wow.
And that is a fun outlet too. And I used to train makeup artists, and I've trained hundreds of them over the years. And you know, more often than not, a lot of people would say that they couldn't draw. And you know, if you just convince yourself that it's something that you can do, you'd be absolutely amazed at what you can do. Especially from the standpoint of dealing with makeup, because you're working on a three-dimensional image, and then you transfer that to paper, or you're dealing more in a two-dimension. And you know, the same things apply. It's a matter of lighting and shading, and I don't. For me, it was real easy, and obviously for others, it's a very difficult thing. But I think if you have the ability to be creative at all, and to be able to look beyond what is present, then it becomes easy.
Mhm.
And you are your biggest enemy.
Yeah,
I mean, from
that's
that
true.
standpoint.
Mhm.
You know, because there's a lot of rules about, you know, you can't do this or you can't do that because it'll give you this effect. You know, and I used to use the analogy of a little child. You take a little kid that wants to do something and mom or dad says, well, you can't do that, and kids wants to know why, and well, if you do this and this, it just won't work, you know, and a half hour later, the kid comes back and he has accomplished what you said he couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't know he couldn't do it,
Mhm.
so he found a way of making it work, you know,
Mhm.
and I think that holds true with anybody that's in any type of a creative field, is you have to look at the thing which is not necessarily obvious to accomplish a task.
Mhm. You have to look beyond the limitations that are in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So you've worked in areas that have had very high standards. Obviously, for presentation sake, you have to follow a standard, and also in a restaurant, you have to have the standard of presenting and having to serve your customer a certain way. What would you say are maybe the top 3 things that a restaurant owner or anybody in the hospitality field needs to nail down to have a successful venture?
First and foremost, service.
Mhm.
Ambiance second, and believe it or not, food is the third.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have good quality and excellent food.
Mhm.
But if the service is poor and the ambiance is not there, more than likely people aren't going to come back.
Mhm.
At least in my experience, I've found this over the years.
Mhm.
It really is important to have that service experience, because people, when they go out to dine, what they want is to be able to go somewhere and experience something that they normally don't
Right.
experience,
Yeah.
both from a taste standpoint and from maybe whatever the meal might be to the service that they get,
Mhm.
because they're not going to get that at home,
Right.
in most cases.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, very important. Thank you. So we know, well, you'll be carrying these on in your new project, and I'm super excited about what's coming shortly. So would you like to tell us about this new project you have coming up?
Sure. We're putting together the International Food Emporium here in Butte. And what that is going to be a multifaceted food service available to the public. Everything from grab-and-go meals,
Mhm.
so that at the end of the day, if you want something different other than the usual hamburger or whatever you might get at a fast food location, we will have pre-prepared meals that will be available that you could come in and get. And that could be for one person or it could be for 10. It really doesn't make much difference. We're going to have a spice shop, so you'll be able to get spices in smaller or larger quantities.
Excellent.
As opposed to buying a little jar, you know, and you only need maybe an ounce of something will last you for 2 months.
Right.
And the problem with most spices is people have spices that have been in their cupboard for 6 months or a year.
Yep, that would be me.
And then, you know, they've lost 90% of their value or their flavor.
Yeah.
So we'll have a spice shop. We'll have everything from Asian to East Indian to, you know, we'll have cardamom seeds, both
Ooh,
green and black.
Excellent.
For individuals that like to do curries, we'll have all types of spices to make a decent curry. Because actually curries are made with many different spices depending upon the type of curry that you want, as an example. And it's not just this powder that comes in a
Not
little
just the
jar
turmeric, yeah.
that says curry on it.
Right.
So, yeah, and we'll also have recipes available to show people how to make basic blends and things of that nature.
Mhm.
As far as spices are concerned. We'll have an oil and vinegar shop, so you can buy bulk olive oils and different types of olive oils, from everything from filtered to unfiltered, from extra virgin to just a plain basic olive oil. That's a pure olive oil. We'll have different types of flavored vinegars, mostly along the lines of balsamic type vinegars.
Cool.
I mean, like, there's everything from fig to chocolate to you name it, and everything in between, passion fruit, all types of exotic fruits that they're blending now with balsamics.
Yeah.
And so they're great for, especially with summer coming up, great in salads, and even with fruit themselves.
Yeah.
Or cheeses as well. I kind of like to pair like a really good Pecorino Romano, which has a nice salty quality to it, the imported type, and do that with a little fig balsamic vinegar. And the blend of the two is really nice, because you get that salty plus the sweet and a little bit of acid as well.
Excellent. I'm excited. I'm like getting hungry right now thinking about it. Do you have an estimated time of when you'll be opening?
We're still in the build-out stages, so we're looking at hopefully by the beginning of June.
Oh, excellent.
And then we're also going to have a deli and a cafe as well. So it'll be multifaceted from that standpoint.
I'm looking forward to it. It's always nice to have something different and out of the ordinary for what would normally be Butte's, Butte food. So I'm excited to see when that comes in. So
yeah, we're not really going to be a meat and potatoes type of operation. The other thing too that I'm really looking forward to myself personally is we're going to have a very large Asian section of raw product to make different types of sauces and things that I don't know anywhere in Montana that will be carrying the types of items that we're going to have, because I've tried to find them for my own use.
Yeah.
And I end up driving to Vegas and going to a market in Vegas and bringing a trunkload back with me. So we'll be having a lot of different Chinese and Japanese and Thai ingredients that you can use to make all types of sauces.
That'll be nice for the adventurous cooks that we have here in Butte, and I know there's some. I mean, they're here. They just have
there's quite a few.
Tough time finding ingredients, and like me, if I have to call a relative and and say, hey, can you send me some of cinnamon sticks that actually taste like and smell like cinnamon, things like that. So this will be really cool. I'm super excited that that'll be coming around. So. Was it tough moving from, and I didn't, was it tough going from doing the Leopard Cafe to this new?
Actually quite easy, really. It's just a different facet.
Right.
I mean, for the last 30 years I've worked in restaurants and everything from, a restaurant where we had 3 different dining areas. We had 7 bars in the place, a huge dance floor, 54 waiters, and as far as in the kitchen is concerned, to a very small place, which is the last thing that I did here. And so this is kind of going to be a challenge from the standpoint of finding the proper mix, not only for Butte, but then also for the surrounding area as well. Because again, the hardest thing that I found from a personal level is when I want something different to make a dish or something, I can't get it. I mean, when we had the restaurant, I was constantly special ordering 90% of my food from the coast because I couldn't get it here. Right. So what we're going to try and do is circumvent that by making those things available for public consumption, so you don't have to go out and buy a 30-pound case of, say, Chinese broccoli as an example.
Yeah.
Because we will also be able to have specialty produce that you can't find in the marketplace. And that'll be based on season and also availability. And most of that comes out of California.
Yeah.
Or Arizona, as an example. But with their weather this past year, it's been really rough.
Yeah, yeah. That's not something you can predict, but at least we'll have, you'll have that stuff available here. It seemed to me like it didn't take long for you to get into a groove of doing something in between your ventures here. You're a DJ on KMBF. I was listening to you this morning, and you play my favorite type of music. You play jazz. How did you get into that gig?
It was some friends of mine who are DJs at the station brought it up to me at one point and said, "Hey, you'd be great doing a radio show. Would you like to do that?" And it was like, "Sure, why not?"
I like that. I like that.
And only because I, in the past, had done a lot of radio commercials and things of that nature. So I was familiar with the medium, and even sold radio advertising and created ads. So it was just a different approach. I love jazz. Unfortunately, in this market, which is another issue as far as I'm concerned, your choice is rock, and country. And if you want something different than that, especially in the genre of jazz, or early pop music, if you will, it's just not available.
Yeah, it's tough to find.
So I do 2 hours every Friday morning, and it's strictly jazz, vocal or instrumental, depending upon what I feel like playing at a particular point in time.
Yeah, it's a great way to start off Friday. I think I love the smoothness of it in the morning. I don't want anything jarring in my ears, when I come here, and so it's very nice to hear your selections. You play some really good music there. So I think we're winding down now with our interviews, but I had this fantasy question because of the work that you do. You're holding, this is a theoretical, and how would you handle this? Let's say you are holding a big dinner party for some super important people, prestigious, diplomats from all over the world. Who would be in the kitchen with you, and what would they be doing?
My mother would be in the kitchen, number one. And an aunt of mine that used to have an Italian restaurant in Santa Cruz. And then the opposite side of the coin, because they would be doing very earthy types of food, nothing pretentious by any standard. I'd have, if I could be so lucky, I would have Thomas Keller in the kitchen, who has the French Laundry in Bouchon and Per Se in New York. Who, in my opinion, is probably the greatest living chef right now.
Very cool. I'm sure the food would be spectacular. I'd be sitting.
If he were there, it would be more than spectacular.
Excellent. All right, so now we're going to do our 10 for 10, and these are really random questions, and I'm not going to time you on them. Timing just makes it. Sometimes you have to think about these. Okay. So number one, what's the most exotic meal you've ever eaten?
Was a meal that I cooked for the Year of the Snake for a Chinese New Year's banquet, which was Malaysian king cobra.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And no, it doesn't taste like chicken.
That's good. Surf or turf?
Surf, absolutely.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red. That's mine too. Name one famous restaurant on your bucket list that you would like to eat.
Bucket list. I'm thinking probably La Bernardin in New York, which is Eric Repair's restaurant. It's French restaurant, 3 Michelin stars, and they specialize in seafood.
Mm. Name one ingredient you could not live without.
Garlic.
Garlic. That's a good answer. What's your favorite holiday?
Chinese New Year's.
For good reason. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Best cooking show, past or present, that you've ever watched?
Best cooking show? Probably Jacques Pepin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
What's your favorite dessert?
That's interesting. Probably fresh fruit and cheese.
Oh, very good. Very good. Awesome. All right. Well, we're winding down now, and we've come to the end of our little interview here. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about Chef Dennis and all the interesting things that he's been involved in. I hope that you will tune in to Experience Butte page. We will be hoping to cover your live, the opening of your place live, and that way everybody can see what it's about, and hopefully we will get a good audience to come and show up at the opening. So let us know when you're opening, and we'll show up and we'll take pictures and let everybody know what's going on.
Cool.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions, make sure you post them in the comments, and also like and share our page and share our video so that everybody can get to know Chef Dennis here. Thank you for watching us today, and we thank you, Dennis, for
You're
being
welcome.
with us
Thank
today.
you.
And even though the weather is not the greatest today, get out and experience Butte.